Hey guys, it's Athena. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I kind of haven't really touched on it on my channel, but I am a really big book lover, and books were a really big part of growing up for me. I was going to say when I was growing up, but I kind of already said that. They were kind of like my escape, my freedom into a new world, to go on adventures, without leaving the house, or without leaving the area I was in, and to be like make connections with like some really great and powerful, wonderful characters. And this is our little bookshelf that I have currently. Um, and so this is where we keep all of our, well, it's actually mostly my book collection. My mom has a collection that's kind of just all displayed on a, kind of like a wraparound shelf in her room. But I don't have a room. I actually sleep in the living room. I think I've talked about that before. But we have a roommate. And then, so all of my stuff is kind of like dispersed in different ways and kind of organized. And so space is really key, especially when you're living in, a metropolis. What is it? A metropolitan area? Yeah. Okay. So the struggle is real. So yeah, this is like my little book and movie game center. And I just wanted to go through and show you guys some of my favorite books. I was gonna pull down some different things from each different area. So starting off, I was going to show you guys, I have three romance novels. The first, actually this one isn't, but this is like an 80s or 90s kind of like drama book I got from the thrift store. This is probably one of my favorite romance novels of all times. It's called A Ruling Passion, and it's by Doreen Owens Malick. And this book is so good. I absolutely am in love with it. This book, like, it was amazing. Like, I know what you're thinking. Like, it's a tiny little rinky-dink, early 80s romance novel, but like it's really special. And like honestly, when I read this book, like I was sad when it was done because I still wanted to like know the characters and like know what was going to happen with their story. And like they had a really, really interesting bond, and sort of like it wasn't too fruity, it wasn't like this tropical splash glitter thing. It was like it was very real, and it was really interesting. So and it had sort of like a late 70s, 80s kind of decor style whenever the author talked about the decor of like, I forget the name of the guy. Oh my god, Megan and Michael Hanley. Oh my god, that's right. Oh, so Michael's house has this like really like sort of like plush like carpet that's like really thick, and like I don't know, it's just super 70s, but I believe this came out in like it's like early 80s, 1984, which is actually my favorite year of the 80s. But yeah, so that's really cool. Then I have The Outlaw Heart. I really loved this one. It's about this girl, Casey Hammond, and she works as a stunt double for movies, and then she actually goes back in time, and she goes to the Wild Wild West. And oh yeah, and then Zachary is the guy in this book. They don't always look like the characters on the front. You can kind of make them look like whatever you want. Like I didn't really like sometimes there'll be covers where like I don't really like the guy or the girl, and I'll just kind of mix and match. But yeah, so I just kind of come up with it in my head. But this one was really great. I think this one is a 90s one, 1995. Yeah, and it's by Vivian Knight Jenkins. Jenkins. And so that one's really great as well. I recommend if you haven't tried romance novels before, I highly recommend them. I don't think that they're just for lonely people like me. I think that they're really exciting, and like they really get to the chase, and they're very like dynamic and dramatic and sensual and steamy, and depending on how much steam you want, like it's kind of like a shower. You can kind of, they have the really hardcore ones, and then they have like the soft, he kissed me like a rose that was glittering by the sunset, I mean, just stuff like that. So it totally depends on what you like. If you don't like flowery language, they definitely have some blunt ones, wink wink, as well. So next, let's see. So something that I haven't talked about on my channel, but is like so important in understanding who I am as a person is that I love Nancy Drew. And I started collecting Nancy Drew when I was probably like 10 years old. Okay, so after those, I wanted to show you guys some from the 1940s that I have. I don't think I mentioned, these are probably around early 1990s, but I just really loved the cover art for them. I thought Nancy looks so gorgeous. That guy looks so hot. And then again, Nancy looks really pretty there. And oh my God, that guy is like, hello, dream guy. He's so hot too. And then, again, he's really hot in this picture. I don't think they're all Ned and Nancy. Ned is her boyfriend. I think that they could probably be different, or maybe it is, I'm not sure. But yeah, so then here are the ones from the 1940s. So this is The Mystery of the Brass Bound Trunk. And let's see, I'm trying to think of how I cannot, some of them have laminated covers, so I apologize for the glare. But you can see she has this beautiful 1940s attire. I can't remember if this is Bess or George. I think the dark-haired girl is George, so this is George, that's Nancy, and then I don't know who that is. It must be some villain character. I haven't actually read this one. Here's the back. But the interesting thing is that you guys know I really love art, and the art of the Nancy Drew books was always really, really important to me and was really special. And I'm trying to think. R.H. Tandy is the guy who illustrated a lot of the Nancy Drew books, especially the earlier years from the early 1930s to the 1940s. R.H. Tandy did a lot of the artwork. And I'm not too fond of this picture. It's nothing that spectacular. But I believe he did, I'm not sure, I believe he did, I don't think it says on here who did, I think, yeah, RHT, Russell H. Tandy. So yeah, he is the illustrator, and I mean, that was one of my favorite book covers ever. My all-time favorite is The Password to Larkspur Lane, first edition, from like, I think it's like middle 1930s, like maybe 1938, 39. I know that's not necessarily the middle, that's kind of the end. I'm just, because I was thinking, I was like, The Password to Larkspur Lane, I think is book number 10 or 11, so I'm not exactly sure what year it was. Oh my gosh, I'll have to insert a picture of The Password to Larkspur Lane. She's like crouching by the fence, and it's so gorgeous. And I remember that was probably one of my all-time favorite Nancy Drew stories. It was about this like corrupted like nursing home, and like Nancy had to like save this woman that was a patient there, and it was just so intense. Next one is The Mystery at Lilac Inn, and this was a birthday present from my Aunt Katie, I think for my 10th birthday. I had seen this. My Aunt Katie used to live in California, in Pasadena, and which was like an hour away from me at the time, and I used to go spend weekends with her, and she was like my best friend. And so I remember there was this really cool old bookstore we went to, and in this sort of display case they had vintage Nancy Drew books. And at the time, I mean, I guess it still kind of is, but you can see a lot of times the books have like, you know, chew marks or like mold or like a lot of stuff. They're not always preserved that well. This one is in really good condition, honestly. And let's see, and I fell in love with the cover of it, and I had to wait like half a year for it because they wanted a lot of money for it. It was really overpriced. They wanted like $40, I think, for it or something like that. And when you're 10 years old, you don't have $40 laying around. So I had to say goodbye to it, but then she surprised me, and I'll never forget. So she got out of the car, and I won't spoil the surprise, but she had it behind her back, and she was like, Athena, they didn't have the book anymore. And I was like, oh. And then she was like, surprise! And she pulled it out. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I hate you, but I love you. So she got me this one. And I really, really loved. The Mystery at Lilac Inn isn't, it's not that interesting. I know this is a more interesting picture than the last picture. These aren't actually my favorite. The way that I really like the books, they're called like glossy like inserts with the illustrations, and the older books from like 1945 to present, they don't have the glossy pages anymore. So that's why it's just sort of made on this type of paper. But what's really interesting as someone who's growing to be a little bit of a history person, on the Nancy Drew books, I'm kind of jumping the gun, but the ones I have from the 1930s say printed under wartime conditions. So the paper that they use for the book is actually recycled paper, which is really amazing. I thought that was great. So next is The Clue in the Old Album. And very lucky that my grandmother sent me this one, and I think this one from Pennsylvania, from my collection there. And then there's this really amazing bookstore called Planet Books, and it was by a school I went to. And I remember I would walk past it every day, and I used to go in there and I used to talk to the guy that worked there, and he was really sweet, and he kind of knew me as like the Nancy Drew girl a little bit. Because I think I had a tab for a Nancy Drew book, and he's like, "Aren't you that Nancy Drew book girl?" And I was like, "That's me." So at least I remember it that way. I don't know, but he was really nice, and so yeah, he had a couple really great gems. He had this one, and then what was the other one? I think maybe it was only, that's right, I paid $5 towards another Nancy Drew book that I wanted that he had, but I just never went back and got it. I think it was like $25, so I have $5 towards it. I have there's like a little note that says like on tab Nancy Drew book I got it I think like 4 or 5 years ago when I was in high school. And then, but yeah, so this one is from when I lived back in I don't think, actually, I can't remember. I got this one growing up, but I can't remember exactly when. But yeah, the cover art is just like, I'm really picky when it comes to like, it's something that's very interesting, I guess. And I know I'm all over the place talking about this. I'm just gushing because it's like, this is a treasure that I just kind of keep in my head, but I don't really get to enjoy as much anymore. Not that I outgrew it, I think I'll always love it, but like sometimes you go through hobbies, I think, and then they fade and like you kind of go into new ones. But I love when there's all different kinds of writing, and I think in the 1930s ones especially, there's like telephone numbers and messages that people had written. This one says, "This book is the property of Kathleen O'Day, copyright 1947. So whoever Kathleen O'Day is, this was her book. So that's really interesting and awesome. And so now I will show you guys the ones from 1930. So what I was going to say is that I am I'm a niche kind of person when it comes to visuals. So even when it comes to my Barbies, I'm like a niche kind of collector where I collect only specific face molds, eras, or something that really jumps out to me. I don't just collect everything. And I'm kind of the same way with Nancy Drew. Like, I remember this one, this is kind of like I don't know, kind of like a rinky-dink Nancy Drew, but I got these because I really loved the covers of them. And like, I don't know, it's funny because I was like, Nancy Drew wouldn't look like that. I'm like, is that Scarlett Johansson, girl? And like, I don't know, this is probably like copyright, probably like early 2000s, probably like the year I was born, 1998, let's see. 2003, okay, later than I was born, but yeah, I don't really like those that much, so, like I said, I'm a little bit of a picky collector, but I'm not too stuck up about it. I think when I was really into my collection, I would always like turn my nose up at the yellow hardcover ones that they have at Barnes & Noble that they still have to this day. They've never re-updated those. Those are from like the 70s, and they've just kept them that way ever since, and I'm just like, ugh. So, because those are like the new books, and I'm like, I'm a professional collector. Like, I'm a serious collector, so I know the real books. So, to me, these are like the OG Nancy Drew books. And this is actually The Password to Larkspur Lane. I don't have the cover of it, but as you can see, this looks like a magic spell book from forever ago. And yeah, it says 1933, and it's priced at $20 from, I think, whichever place I got it from. Now, this one has the glossy pages. Let's see. Copyright 1933. So this is like one of the very first editions of this book. It's not that I necessarily care so much about editions. It's just that the pictures have to, if you want the glossy pictures, you kind of have to find editions that are older. So here's one. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't think Nancy looks that pretty in it, but the artwork is really amazing. The one picture that it makes my heart just like, oh, I can't, oh my gosh, it's always so hard to find it too. It's kind of like hidden in the book, like a little treasure. Let's see. It's this glossy illustration by R.H. Tandy, and it is so impossibly beautiful. Let's see. It's always so hard to find, and I'm always like, was it this book that has it in it? I think it is. It's really hard to find. Like, the way that they cut the paper, it really blends in with the other pages. So that's like a very Nancy Drew kind of thing. I promise this whole video won't be Nancy Drew related, but maybe it is in another book. I always think that, and then I find it, and I'm like, what? Weird. That's so weird. Maybe it's in a different book. Let's see. Okay. So here's Nancy's Mysterious Letter, and this one has a lot of, like, I think some type of spotting on it. I don't know if it's like mold or just like, I don't think it's mold. I think it's old age, just like kind of like dirty spots, and then the binding and everything. I don't really care if the book is like, I never really cared when I was like, 12 years old searching on eBay for Nancy Drew books. I never was like, all I cared about was I just wanted some form of the cover. If I really liked the cover or like the pictures, I just was really concerned with like the visuals. And this is like the OG classic Nancy Drew interior. The different eras have different interiors. So just like little things. This one belonged to Marion. I don't know what that last one is. It's Marion M something. Marion Menson, 3806 Reed Street, something, Wyoming. But yeah, so here's the picture inside for this one. And it sucks because all the pictures of these, I think it might be in this one that oh, it is. There it is. Oh my god. So glam. Oh, I'll have to insert some pictures of the covers I really like because these illustrations are not really doing them justice. But look at this picture. It is just so glam. So glam. I'm like missing the shot completely. It is just everything. Look at their heels, their dresses. It's just, they're like, Nancy's like in shock and the girl's like, and it's just, so good. I just can't believe it. It's just amazing. So let's see. And then last one of the 1930s collection. There's like dust all over. I'm like, Nancy Drew. So this one is The Clue of the Broken Locket. And this one, I think, let's see, this says to Mary Helen Burke from Patricia Klein for Christmas of 1939. Address 816 West Bershing. Phone, her phone number is only 4 digits. 4547 Cheyenne, New York. I think that's what it says. Yep. Crazy. Okay, and I think this one only has one illustration as well. But it's interesting now because, like, the illustrations to me were the closest thing I felt like I had to Nancy Drew. Like, I kind of would almost think of it as, like, I always really loved Barbie, so, like, they never made a Nancy Drew Barbie that I'm aware of, or, I don't think they ever made a Nancy Drew Barbie, which would be so amazing for Mattel to do, because I've never thought of that or even come across it. Like, I don't think that they have one. So, the illustrations to me were, like, the closest thing I ever got to a Barbie of Nancy Drew, unless I made one of my own, which would be really cool. But, so that's why I was so enthralled with, like, the illustrations and, like, the different eras of the artwork and all of that, because it was, like, the closest I could get to her. And, yeah, so that's a big part of my book-loving collection and everything. And then, let's see. I apologize if this is a really long video, so if you guys want to, like, take breaks in between, I totally don't blame you. Here are some books that I haven't read yet. Where'd You Go? Bernadette. I don't know what that is. Walking in Circles Before Lying Down. There's a dog on it. Probably never will read that. I really like this book because of the cover. It's very 1930s. Whitney Otto, The Passion Dream Book. I got this at the thrift store, and I thought it looked really great, but I've never read it. My mom got this for me for my birthday, Dreamology. Really amazing, amazing book. It's about this girl who has this like dream life in her dream world and this dream guy, and then she actually meets the guy from her dreams in real life, but he isn't who. Um, it would basically be like if you had a fantasy guy in your head with all different kinds of like personality characteristics, but then you met someone that looked identical to them in real life, but they weren't the same person even though they look the same, if that makes sense. So I remember, I think I'm still on like the beginning pages. Yeah, here's our receipt. It's like sort of, I think I'm less than 100 pages in for sure. But yeah, it was really good so far. I'm on chapter 6. But yeah, I haven't picked this one up again. It's really funny. I go through eras of my life where I read a lot or I don't read at all unless it's for school or whatever. We have Great Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. Love him. Tortured Soul, bless his heart. It's so funny, for all the tortured souls that I learn about in like art and history and everything, like I always wish that I could have been like their lover. I know that sounds really weird and like I don't know if that sounds really egotistical, but like I wish I could have just like loved Edgar Allan Poe and like just loved him to like happiness. And same thing with like Vincent van Gogh. I would have loved to have been like, I don't know, his wife or something and just loved him all better, or long enough to, learn to survive with the inner demons. Then we have The Call of the Wild, which I read and absolutely hated. So there's that. And my favorite character from The Call of the Wild is Mercedes, and she sinks into an iceberg and drowns. So that's all I gotta say about that. Last two books. This book, Ink by Amanda Sun. Such an amazing, amazing book. It's about this girl who moves to Shizuoka, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Japan, and she basically meets this guy named Tomohiro, and he comes from this long line of descendants of people who can draw things and make them come to life, which is kind of reminiscent of the Barbie Rapunzel movie where she can like paint anything, like she's like painting her dress and it comes to life. So there are these people, like it has to do with like, I mean, just so many different things, and I actually annotated it for one of my English classes. I had to do that, and I chose this book. But it's just so amazing, and there are these really beautiful, I'm trying to think, really gorgeous illustrations all throughout the book. Like there's her, I think these are all Tomohiro's sketches that he has. But yeah, my roommate actually kind of looks like the girl on the cover. Really beautiful. And yeah, so there's like a Q&A in the back, and it's really amazing. I mean, it's just like, it's so exciting, and it sucks because I can't really express it in words, but I'm the kind of person where I don't think all books are magical. I think that, but there are a lot of them that are. And a lot of the books I have in my collection did that magical thing where they transported me to another world. And this book, Ink by Amanda Sun, did that. This book really transported me, and it was amazing. And it's a series, so there are more. And I really want to read them. I just haven't gotten to reading them. But I mean, even the cover is like, it's a canvas paper, and it's just like so luxurious and like watercolor. Oh, so good. And then this is a 18 plus adult romance kind of erotica novel called Obsession, and it's by Helen Hart, and this is the second book in the Steele Brothers series. Steele Brothers. I'm trying to think where I have the first one. I'm not sure. I know it's in there somewhere. Oh, it's right here. So here's the first book, and it's called Craving. And these books, I don't know. Oh, I'm actually really far into this one. Let's see. I'm like a little more than halfway far in the second book. I'm on 163. But these books are really hot, but they are very kind of, they remind me of like, I know saying like a soap opera, it's like, yeah, duh, it's a romance novel, but they're a little kind of bland other than like the sex stuff, like excuse me, making love. They're a little bland outside of that area, and I just wish that the actual storyline had some more oomph to it. It's about this girl named Jade Roberts, and there's this guy Talon Steele, and he's part of this. His family has like an empire, a like ranch business, and they have like a winery and like orchards and cattle and like all kinds of stuff. And the brothers are all sort of like there's a whole book series of these, and I think every 2 books is a different brother. So 2, 4, 6. I think that there's 6 books. Yeah, I don't know, but there's like 4. I think there's 3 brothers, and then so then it goes through like each of their relationships, and it doesn't just stick to the same 2 people. But this is Talon and Jade's story, and I mean, I feel like the books could be a lot better. I felt like it's kind of the same thing over and over and over again, which, I mean, it's okay, but as you can see, I kind of got to a point where I was like, life kind of came in and was like, okay, well, I'm not really obsessed with this anymore. And it's so funny, this is called Obsession, so want to rethink the title? No, I'm just thinking. I'm just kidding. If I ever met, it's so shady of me to say that, but I'm just being funny. I don't really mean it. She is a great author. Helen Hart. She does an amazing job, and she has a bunch of other series of romance novels and stuff, and I would highly recommend her. I highly recommend this series. I think it's more for somebody who wants kind of like a drawn out story. You know, it's not a wham bam thank you ma'am romance novel. It's more of like a slow caressing candle, and like it's just but the sex is like really hot, so I would pick that up. But I mean, it's kind of like, oh my god, I would love, see, I am so never gonna get monetized, and that's okay. It's like, she ended where he began, and I'm just like, oh, I love it. So, let's see. Next romance novel is A Mermaid's Kiss, and I really, really loved this book. This is like a total fantasy book. I've never really read hardcore fantasy, and this is like mermaids and fairies and, I mean, angels and all this stuff, and it's like, it's really great. And Jonah is the guy, and then Anna is the girl in this book, and like, oh my god, the first 3 chapters are like, whoo, girl. They're like, I don't want to spoil it, but it's like, it's so good, and like the lovemaking in this book is like, high key, okay? Yeah, it just, oh, so good, and I actually never finished it. I'm like, I think, yeah, I'm right here. I'm on 336, and there's like that much left. And I was reading this over the summer, but the story really, really was really long. Like, we're getting towards like 400 pages, and I'm like, you know, it's a lot. Like, it's a lot I mean, there's just a lot of stuff happening. Like, it's a lot. But I really, really loved, it. And one day, I mean, my heart almost doesn't feel like it can like beat properly until I finish this book, because these 2 are really special characters. I'm actually very interested to see how it turns out. I think I have another like 35 pages left, so I'll have to finish reading that, because my heart can't go on until I know what happens. So let's see. And then last of the romance novels, currently I am reading this book. It's called Breathless, and it's actually written by 2 different authors. So there's a storyline that's set in the present, and then one in the past. And so both authors, each one takes on either the past or the present. And it has to do with the art world and these paintings called The Siren. And there's like a series of paintings, and this girl and guy are like hunting down like these paintings, and then the story goes to be like, who is the girl in the paintings, who was she, how were her and the artist of the paintings in love, their romance story, all that kind of stuff. So really, really interesting, and it's called Breathless. So that's what I'm reading right now. And I was reading it while I was getting my hair done, because that bleach was burning, girl. And I was like, I was like trying to just stay as occupied as possible. So, there hasn't been any romance yet. Like, there hasn't been any, like, sex scenes in it yet. So I'm like, there's been one, but it was, like, with the captain, and, like, he was just, like, he's, like, really grimy and gross, which is, like, I don't know. It just wasn't, like, it's not that being grimy and gross is, like, bad, but, like, he's just, like, kind of, like, they didn't really, like, I don't know. She's not, like, in love with him, and, like, they're just kind of, like, doing it. So it's just, like, okay. So, I don't know. And then, sorry, I have some, like, really special, like, stuff on my bookshelf, so I'll just, I kind of keep, like, different, like, I have two Funko Pops. I really don't like Funko Pops. I think they're so overrated. I think they're really gross looking, but I love these two, and this is, Queenie and Jacob, and I also have Elvira. But I love Queenie and Jacob, and I actually found these together with someone, and they were on sale. So it was too perfect. Like, it was just too perfect. So I always keep them there, but I'm just not a big Funko Pop person. I would prefer action figures that are, like, 1/6 scale or whatever, and, like, are actually the character. It's just, like, what is up with these, like, Hey Arnold heads? Like, I don't get it. So, let's see. And then I have this doll, this poor doll. Oh, my God. Oh, bless her. Yes. That doll is so me in life. It's like, oh, okay. Let's see. So, let's see. The Right Attitude to Reign. I've never read that. My mom wanted me to read that. Okay. I am just talking and talking and talking and talking. Woo! Okay. So, I think I can do it, okay? I can do this. And I'm like, now I'm like really worried about how I've been talking about like the sex scenes in the book, and I'm like, oh my God, is everyone gonna think I'm like crazy, and our job place is gonna find this and like play this and be like, oh my God, this girl, we can't hire her. I'm just like, oh, can't we just be real? Like, why can't we just be honest and real and not worry about things? Okay, so this next series is my favorite book series of all time. Okay, this is the Chemical Garden Trilogy. The first book is Wither by Lauren D. Stefano. The second book is Fever by Lauren D. Stefano. And the third book is Sever by Lauren D. Stefano. And all I have to say is check this series out. It is amazing. And majority of these books, the romance ones are all adult, but then the rest are like kind of like late teens, adolescent. So give that in mind. But we're talking about some really mature themes here. So it's really, really amazing. I highly, highly recommend this book series. It's just so intense and like enchanting, and it's just like this enigma that like comes over you. Hi. And so it's just really, really good. I love it. And it really carries out through like the first and the second book. The third book gets a little stale after a while because the story, I think it'd be really hard to write a story and keep the momentum going for 3 books. So I think the first and the second novel are the best. And let's see. And then this book it's called The Selection. I tried reading it like 3 times and I just never got into it. It's interesting. It's a series, so I like the cover and the premise seemed really interesting, but I just never got into it. And then, let's see. And then here's this really cool book my grandmother sent me, and it's called Clues for Real Life, The Classic Wit and Wisdom of Nancy Drew. And here's one of the second edition covers of the Secret of the Old Clock. And then here's one of my favorite covers. This is The Secret in the Old Attic. This is the second edition illustration. I love that one. And yeah, so it's really cool because this just has like a lot of different kinds of just all different types of different, like, let's see, just, like, facts and, like, cool things and just, like, little quotes from her and all kinds of stuff. Let's see, maybe there's something, I'm trying to find something if I could find, like, that's really interesting. Oh, here's a bigger version of that. I always loved that. I thought that picture was absolutely beautiful. And a lot of these pictures are the ones that are on the books from Barnes & Noble that you can still buy today that are sort of like, not, like all of these are the ones that you can still buy today. All of these covers, none of these are the original covers. I don't really like them that much. Some of them are okay, but I don't really like all of them. The Bungalow Mystery is the third book. I remember that one really well, and I did really like that one. It was pretty intense. It was a little boring, but it was okay. And then I always loved this picture, but I never really liked the book. The Hidden Staircase is the second Nancy Drew book, and I always loved this picture. Like, I really, really did. But I never really liked the story itself. And I'm just trying to see if I could find anything. I always kind of liked Nancy and Ned in this picture. I thought that was kind of cool. It has like a very 60s, like, kind of vibe to it. Oh, I always liked this one too. I thought she looked, oh my god, I can't remember. I have this one, but the original cover. I think it's called The Mystery of the Tolling Bell. But I thought Nancy looked really, really cute there. But I have this cover, the redone cover, does no justice for the original. The original, she's like golden blonde and in this like blue dress, and she's like, and it's, oh my god, so good. So there's that, and then let's see, and then I have all my anime books, but I'm thinking I'll probably do a separate video for that since there's a lot of, I keep saying anime, manga. And then this book is The Project Genesis, and this is by one of my best friends whose name is Phil. He's really awesome. He used to work at the video store that I went to all the time, and he's really great. He's like vegan, and he's like gonna save the world, and like he's a super great activist kind of person, and really, really intelligent and empathetic and amazing. And this is his first novel. It's called The Project Genesis, so I highly recommend this. I've only got to the beginning of it, but I'm reading this one, and I really, really recommend it. It's really great, like, very, like, intellectual sci-fi. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Just a little bit about my bookcase and, like, some of the books that are really special and meaningful to me. So, let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you in my next video, okay? Mwah. Bye, guys.